I'm Alistair, IDEST Training Manager, and welcome to IDEST Tutorials. So, hydro or visual? That is the question. When a customer comes into the shop with their cylinder, they often state they want the cylinder tested. It is then down to the technician to determine whether it should be a hydro or a visual. Whether you're working to the standard 1802, 1968 or 18119, there are two types of inspection of a cylinder. One is a periodic inspection or a PI, commonly known as a visual, and the second is a periodic inspection and test or PIAT, commonly known as a hydro. A PIAT is in effect a visual inspection followed by a pressure test. Visual inspections occur every 2.5 years and the pressure test is done every 5 years. So, how is the decision made? The easiest of these decisions is when the cylinder comes in with a green IDEST quadrant sticker on it. This means that the last thing done to the cylinder would have been a visual inspection or PI. This green sticker will confirm that the PI was the last thing to have been done and that a PIAT is now due. The date that this PIAT is due will be punched out of the green quadrant sticker. Checking the stamp marking on the cylinder shoulder should indicate that about 5 years has elapsed since the last pressure test. This decision is quite straightforward. No problems. A hydro or PIAT is needed. It does not matter whether it is overdue by a week, a month, a year or more. Once a cylinder is due a PIAT must be performed. So, all clear so far? If the cylinder comes in with a blue quadrant sticker, then the last visit to a workshop was for a pressure test or hydro. The last stamp on the shoulder of the cylinder will indicate when and where the last PIAT took place. Technically, this cylinder should be due for a visual inspection, provided the elapsed time is not more than 5 years. The problem comes when the cylinder arrives in the shop and the due date for the visual inspection has long gone, perhaps months or a year plus. If the last PIAT stamp still has some time of the 5 years still to go, then a visual is the thing to perform. However, there is a decision for the customer to make. The illustration here shows that a hydro has been performed in January 2020 and that it will last for 5 years until January 2025. 2.5 years after that hydro, a visual inspection is due in July 2022. Many shops state that if the date for a visual inspection is overdue by a month or so, it must have a hydro. That's wrong. The extreme example could be that a visual is done only a few months before the next PIAT is due. It would be foolish to spend that money only to have to pay for the due hydro in a few months' time. So, what's the solution? Advise the customer that it can still have the visual inspection, albeit that it is late up to 12 months before the next hydro is due. That way, they do not overspend on a hydro that is actually not needed, but get the benefit of 12 months on a visual. Leaving the visual inspection any later than that starts to become a waste of money for the customer. What if the customer decides to have a hydro instead of the visual that's actually due? That's perfectly all right, it's their decision. Do not lead the customer into having a PIAT or hydro when a PI or visual is perfectly acceptable. Having a hydro earlier will now reset the hydro date cycle. The next visit will be for a PI 2.5 years after this test date, and then the next PIAT will be due after 5 years. Quite simple. So there you go. I hope you found that interesting and that it's clarified a few things for you. Just look forward for another IDEST tutorial. Goodbye for now.